Welcome to this chat with Peter Williams, founder of Leeds BD. Peter has a lifetime of experience in business development, specialising in sales, and more recently with his previous executive role and experience with boards. In this interview, Peter unlocks tips for small business owners, ways for corporates to track who's actually bringing in the business, and encourages young professionals to invest time to grow your network over some liquid gold. Thank you to the NEXUS War Room experience for hosting us. They have amazing facilities located on Hamilton Street in Tauranga CBD, providing groups with real-time experience needed to effectively navigate a crisis. It's pretty lifelike and like an escape room. It's pretty immersive. Anyway, welcome to the conversation, Peter Williams. So Peter, you've got a wealth of experience in business development. Can you, for those that don't know you, can you give them a quick background on what you've done?
Okay, thanks Matt, thanks for having me. Probably the background starts at 35 years, dare I say. There's a bit of business time there gone in the past. Through that time, sort of picked up on 5 different companies. The first one was one I probably cut my teeth on and sort of broke even on and learned all my lessons on, as most people do. But what I learned is that most of the success out of businesses comes from what you say, and what you say and how you connect with people and the relationships that you build. That then turns into revenue and opportunity. So basically going forward, I place a lot of emphasis on, 1, building culture within teams, but 2, focusing on relationships. And relationships come down to business development. And when you're in the service industry, you know, it takes time to build relationships. And so don't worry about that, Matt.
Don't worry about it. We'll carry on.
Yeah, so what I learned from the other businesses, reaching out to build those relationships, that's how we found growth in the companies. And when I look back on my time since I'm founder of Veros, since leaving Veros, I reflect on, I've got a property background, but really my greatest, I think, tool I had with all the businesses was my ability in business development. So I've picked up on those traits. I've pulled together a workshop. I've written down all my ideas over a summer break, and now I look to sort of promote those and to others. Especially
in smaller communities outside of Auckland, those relationships are really critical. Even though Tauranga is growing, with New Zealand's 5th largest city, we still operate in that quite regional community, quite parochial as well. What are your thoughts? What's your experience?
My experience is that reputation is key, and we live in a village, so those relationships are critical. So the thing is, how do you do it? And what I've found is that you, in different businesses, particularly in the times are a bit tougher, everyone needs to get in the boardroom, have a discussion around what we need to do to grow the business, and everyone talks about business development. And we pull out a sheet of paper and we write down all the companies we need to target. We get a good list, and then we hand the list around the team and go, right, let's all meet again in 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and let's talk about what you've all done. And we come back in 2 or 4 weeks, we find out that not a lot's happened. And there's a lot of reasons and barriers that people put in front of business development. Usually I'm time poor, I'm snowed under, I don't have all the information, I'm not sure what you're doing, so I don't want to tread on your toes. We seem to put up a lot of barriers to move forward, and the idea being is, how can we reduce those barriers so people become more active?
Yeah, so particularly in the SME space where you've got the owner and you may have an operations team, but really business development relies solely on the owner. Yeah. And is this some of the time poor issues that you're talking about?
That hit the nail on the head in terms of the owner. The owner's looking around his team, and finding that there's probably 3 or 4 people within the organisation that need to step up. Goes to see those people, they're very responsive to, would love to help, I really develop my skills in that area, and it's sort of just palmed off as if, well, go and make it happen. There's no really tools given to those people to make those things happen, and ultimately it falls back on the owner again. They are the rainmaker, they are the person that grew the business, and with everything else going on from a strategic and a human resource point of view, they just get smothered as well. So the whole concept is, how do we spread business development through an organisation to people who are uncomfortable doing business development, and people they've never done it before. So they think that business development is a cold call. Oh, it's one of 12 actions you could take to do business development, but you've got to simplify it and make the task easy.
Oh, okay. So obviously marketing is a separate component around making the awareness and trust and reputation, but really when it comes to closing deals and proactively leveraging off your brand, that's where this sales comes in. And to be frank, there's not a lot of sales training in Tauranga, unless you have to go up to Auckland and get that big training. So now you're providing something locally, eh?
I am, and across the Waikato as well. And have crept up to Auckland just because the reach has gone that far. But it's interesting you mentioned marketing and sales and business development. They're actually three very different things. I represent it by the fact that you've got a client. Who's the furthest away from a client? It's marketing. There's no touch points. There's an ad. There's perhaps some PR communication of some sort. It's the furthest away from a client could be. Who's next in line? Well, I think it's the sales. Sales are people who particularly turn up to take an order. Think of Lion Breweries. They've got to get another dozen on the shelf. They turn up, they take an order, and they leave again. Whilst they are building a relationship, it's not close. The closest person to a client is a business development manager, because business development takes time. It's service-based. You're not selling widgets. You're selling yourself and a service. That takes time. If you can win a job in your first meeting, that's luck. It usually takes 6 to 18 months to convert a job. So business development is very different to sales. And I think for a lot of people entering into business development, they think of it as a sales role. And some people pull back from sales. So one of my things is to break it down. What is business development?
Okay, well, let's scratch the surface at that, where maybe we've spoken about small business owners. Perhaps we take a different view with the corporates and say a new partner at an accountancy firm or a law firm. They are brought into the organisation with the hopes and dreams of building up their own client base here. No doubt they may have some junior associates and solicitors working underneath them. So how would they structure that team and use the tools that you're developing to get the most out and actually find out what is happening?
Well, you use a solicitor by example, an associate coming through, or even a partner for that. Most of them want to build their book. They've got to build a practice as they refer to it in their industry, and so they've got to find that mighty client to assist them. The idea being is that they go out there and they meet a client and becomes one or two in which they can rely upon. But to get that magical client, it does take a while, and there are those clients rather with other solicitors at the moment. So therefore, how can they get closer to those clients to get that opportunity? It takes 6 to 18 months. So you need a number of steps in order to win that trust to start the business, and often it comes with the small job, not the big job. So it's changing the mindset. Stop going for just the massive jobs. You've got to have small chunks along the way in order to reach your ultimate goal. So that's a big thing to do with partners. It's very much focused on the big opportunity. So we've got to cut it down and make it more obtainable.
Well, it makes good business sense anyway to have a number of clients rather than being relying on one big one, right? And making sure you've got a strong portfolio. So maybe if these partners are getting some younger associates into the role, how are they supposed to run the practice or run their division, as well as making sure the associates are helping them out with some business development as well?
Well, a lot of organisations got to employ a business development manager. My philosophy is you've got them already, they're just not doing the business development. A lot of people don't want to do business development because, as I mentioned before, they're time poor, they've got too much on their plate. So the goal is, how can I make business development part of their role? So it's not something extra to do, it's something that's included within their role. So coming back to keep the tasks simple and easy, if I can get you to do only 2 tasks per week, bearing in mind, maybe you're doing none before that. That's effectively a 200% lift in productivity, right? And if those two tasks are attend a network event or send an email or send a text or making a phone call, the time in which you put towards the business development is small. It could be 2 minutes, it could be an hour, but an hour over a week, it's nothing. So it's breaking business development down for people to realise that they do have time and slot it into your schedule, and you can be more effective.
Oh, okay. So taking that analogy of looking at an elephant and having one bite at a time, and I suppose it's that consistency and making sure it is part of your regular week and it is planned. It's not something you do whenever you feel you've got capacity to.
And part of the solution there is having a program in place, a systemised program, so that people will do that half an hour to an hour a week of business development. And if there isn't a system in place, if the organisation doesn't have a system in place, that's effectively what I've pulled together. I've developed some software it's data driven. It measures effectiveness and performances of people involved. And what it does, I meet with people every 2 weeks. I meet them for half an hour because time's precious for them as well. But what they know every 2 weeks is that they are going to be held accountable for those 2 to 4 tasks, or half an hour to an hour and a half of time in 2 weeks' time. So because they are meeting with me on a regular basis, things start happening. And when you don't have a system in place, it doesn't. There's always a reason not to.
That's true, and plus then you can look at people's pipeline and realise whether there's some obstacles as people get through different pipeline stages, and whether there's a barrier between meeting people and submitting a proposal but not quite getting them over the line. Is that where you can provide some support to get them, help them progress down that pipeline? Well,
there's 12 steps to BD. There's 12 different things you can do. I'm a bit old school. I could pick up the phone and make a cold call. 90% of people can't do that. It's not a comfortable space. So what are the other 11 sort of things you could do? A simple example is at a social gathering. You bump into someone at a social gathering. No one ever thinks it's actually a business development opportunity, and they don't want to feel like they're selling. Well, just to say to someone, oh, by the way, we're in the same industry, why don't we grab a coffee? That's it. You don't have to say anything more. And typically, because it's social, the person, oh, sure, we'll do that. And you can contact them 2 weeks later and start that process. So there's a lot of easy, simple steps you can take in order to start the business development process. I've got a theory that you pretty much need 6 contact points or 6 stepping stones to even just to grab a meeting. So people need to step through these business development tasks to have the key milestone is a meeting. If you have a meeting, you can build a relationship. If you can build a relationship, you can find an opportunity. The commission that we're referring to, that sort of comes a little bit outside your control. You've got to write proposals, you've got to rely on others to support you. But if you can create the opportunity for your organisation, that's where you get your growth from. But you need all of those small steps along the way and to be held accountable for that time.
Particularly in Tauranga and the Western Bay, and maybe Bay of Plenty and Waikato as well, there's a degree of social proofing as well, and building an ecosystem around you, knowing that other people are working with you and you've helped other people, so it's quite that community feel. So I like what you said around taking it back to basics and keeping it old school.
Well, you're so right, Matt. The point about the whole community point of view is that from business development, coming back to, a lot of people think business development is about, I've got to win a commission. But so that person doesn't provide me with an opportunity, why would I want to see them? They break it down further, because that person's well networked in the community. If you've got a relationship with that person, they become your brand ambassador. They'll talk to another person at another barbecue or another network event about the services that you can provide. That person's actually well networked, so they might have market intel, that you'll hear things from them that you wouldn't hear from other people. That in itself is an opportunity that you can take back to your organisation. So we've got to break business development down to, it's not just about the commission, it's about all those little bits of information you can bring back to your team to grow your business. And when people realise that business development has so many different levers to it, they can be more effective at it.
And I suppose the more you talk to, the more information you're gathering in terms of identifying insights for other businesses and helping your other businesses, helping other friends and other connections that you've got to spark opportunities for them as well. And that's providing value. And of course, people want to stay connected with people that are providing value.
It feels like you've done a bit of business development. So there's three sorts of targets or prospects, as I call them. Obviously, you've got your existing clients. You've got your new clients that you want to target, and you've got your co-suppliers. So people within your industry that you're referring to, that sort of network of people that within business. That the thing about those people in that co-supplier market, we're all looking to grow those opportunities for our organisations. So when we meet with each other, we need to share. Now, I'm not talking about confidentiality here, but there's certain things that we can communicate. And when we're sharing, giving a little bit of ourselves, or a little bit of information across the table, we get something back. So having those co-supplier meetings are as important to meeting with existing customers and targeting new clients as well.
So your point around consistency, that's also true when, say, businesses are going gangbusters, they're at complete capacity, they're not taking on any further work, and they completely drop off that business development until something happens, then they've got a gap, so they go through this boom-bust cycle. Is there any ways to mitigate that, or is that just the consistency?
Well, the consistency is recognising that those existing clients need to be treated as if they're really valued, so take care of them. Business development is sending them a gift. Business development is asking them for a coffee. Business development is offering them a seat at a network event. So looking after those existing clients are critically important for a buoyant market. But one thing's for certain, buoyant markets stop again. I sort of liken it to the current property boom. From a construction point of view, 3 years ago, you couldn't find a plumber or an electrician anywhere. Well, now they're just knocking down your door. There's some people in the industry forget that the highs become the lows as well. So business development needs to be a constant thing, and you need to take time out to catch up with people.
So how are you sensing the demand out at the moment in terms of where we're at in the economic cycle? For some people, some are busy, but quite a few are looking for work and looking for those opportunities. I suppose, where would you suggest for them to look for more opportunities to broaden their horizon and potentially take on some of their competitors who are also pulling back on their marketing spend and other things?
Well, the key thing is you need to have 30 to 40 prospects. So if you've currently only got 3 key people, you realise you need to get out of the market. And to do that, a real simple way to go about it is look at your co-suppliers. So people within your industry who they want to grow, you want to grow, meet with them, see what you can share, what market intel you can get. So that's a simple way to move business development. Another simple way is to go to those network events. Some people go to network events, hang out with their same group of friends, don't really communicate with a lot of people, and some people find it a drag. It's not. It's a great opportunity to brand yourself within the community. And when you're coming back to that whole philosophy, have a chat for someone 3 or 5 minutes, say, oh, listen, we should grab a coffee in a week or two. That person's not in the middle of a network event going, no, I don't want to meet with you. Of course they're going to agree with you. So then that gives you the ultimate excuse to contact them in a week to 2 after that by email. Remember we talked about at the conference about getting together, et cetera, and then you can start the process again. So you've gone from 3 in your prospect to 4. Now, if you start dragging this out over a year, of different network events you go to, different social gatherings you get to, co-suppliers, networking referrals that you can work at. Now, within 6 months to 8 months, you can have 30 to 40 prospects on your list. And when you've got that and you're turning them over on an annual basis, I'm just saying from experience, the work falls out of it. You've just got to get your prospect list up.
So there's a few corporate executives that are part of our membership. They've said some of the younger people don't like doing stuff after 5 o'clock. That's their time. But knowing that's when a lot of networking events and opportunities happen. Got any tips for these young people that are working, maybe they're an insurance broker or an associate lawyer, and there's a degree of their role that they need to do business development, knowing that it doesn't just happen 9 to 5. Do you have any tips for these young people?
Yep. Work a little bit harder.
Yeah.
That's how things move forward. There's a lot of early ambition with the younger people that they want more. Well, there's a lot of young people want more, and when they realise they're in a competitive competition to get that opportunity, the person who works that little bit more is more likely to get the lift that they've always wanted. I mean, that's how the cycle works. And I just encourage them to do those extras.
Well, if other young people are pulling back, it doesn't take too much more to push, work a little bit harder, attend a few more events to really get that return on investment if their peers are doing that 9 to 5, clock in, clock out.
Exactly. It's only 10%. If you're in the 10%, you'll stand out, right? Yeah,
absolutely. So how do people get in touch with you, and how do they find out more around this, not only the system, but your coaching program that comes with it?
Yeah, well, they can call me my mobile. But probably come through the chamber to get that. It's probably the best way to go around to do that. I've also my website is leadsbd.co.nz, another way to find us. But in terms of the process, it's what we offer is good for individuals and it's good for companies. So let's start with the companies. Why would the companies be interested to us? Well, it improves BD for all the participants. So they learn tricks and tips in terms of to be more effective. So it's a talent development. Within the organisation, if you've got more people involved in BD, it creates a culture. So people become interested and they hear stories around the water cooler or having a coffee, who they've met and what they've done. And it becomes a bit of a culture within an organisation, and people are more inclined to attend events and do some BD. And lastly, from a company point of view, it measures effectiveness. So we prepare a quarterly report. In that quarterly report, it says how many prospects they've had, what's their attendance been like, how often do they actually do a BD action, how many meetings did they secure, how long did it take. Everything's measured, and you can actually rate some effectiveness from that. Now, so from a business point of view, who are the up-and-comers? Who is intermediate we want to make senior? Who is the associate we want to make a partner? Or who is the senior personnel we want to be a shareholder? All these things can provide support to making those decisions to grow a business. What about the individual? Well, it sounds a bit threatening, doesn't it, for the individual, that they're going to be measured. But no, change the lens on it. Now, I've got a report for you that you can take to your boss to say, look what I'm doing. Look at the things and remember I said 2 things a week? I'm not trying to turn you into a business development guru. I'm just trying to make you more productive in what you do. And look, here's the jobs that I've won. Or secondly, sometimes you bring a client in, it's not really in your sphere, so you pass it to somebody else. 6 months later, there's a job from it, and the person you pass it to is saying, oh, look at the work I won. Well, you can go back to your report and go, well, here I am. I brought the client 6 to 8 months ago. I'm part of that success. So the individual can also use this as a tool to promote themselves and grow themselves, and of course learn business development along the way, which I think in the broader things is they can take anywhere.
Yeah, that's great. So it's not just the corporate suck up that gets along best with the boss and has the best relationship with the boss. You actually got some metrics, so people that are putting in the work and knowing that sometimes onboarding a client, there's a few people involved, like you said, so that merit is shared with those that did the work.
Correct. But business development has been a dark art. So how do you measure it? And I've been doing business development for a while, and I'd just say to my boss, look, I'm working hard. And how did the boss really, really know how hard I was working? So we now have a system to measure what people are doing. So I think from an organisational point of view, it's really helpful. From an individual point of view, I've given them a system, a very simple system that's not threatening. It's an easy process to follow, because the whole thing about business development, if it's not easy, people want to step away from it. Remember, these are people who aren't typically business development people. We're just trying to get some business development out of them. Everyone has a bit, and we go and find it within them.
Cool. Do you have any motivational comment or something that people are in a bit of a slump? It is a tough economy out there. Do you have any motivational thoughts to pass on to those?
Interesting. Well, I often say, when do you think you should start the program? And they go, oh, I need to have a meeting. I need to make sure that my colleague isn't already involved. And there's a bunch of reasons they can put up in front of me. And I say, well, whilst you go away and do that, just remember the other organisation's team who has business development has had 2 coffees with the client that you're trying to target. So if you don't do it now, you're already behind. So procrastinate is not a good thing in business development because someone else is getting the lead in front of you. I've actually got probably 40 tips and tricks as part of a workshop that I've prepared. I naturally, when I speak to people, just share some of those ideas with them. I've got a couple of rules like how many coffees do you need to win a project? I say 11. They say that's awfully a lot. And perhaps it is, maybe it's only 6, but it sort of emphasises that if you're not out there drinking a lot of coffee, which I call gold, is another rule, you're not developing those relationships. When you're having that relationship with someone, what do you bring? Do I bring any case studies? Do I bring my business cards? No. What do I bring then? Oh, you bring yourself. Oh, what do we talk about? Well, the goal is to talk about 90% about bringing your personality, just life in general, about your family, about the sport, about what's happening in the news, what you've heard in the market, and don't forget 10% of it needs to be about business because it is a business meeting at the end of the day. But people are wanting to meet good people. And if you go there with a hard sell, remember this is business development, it's not selling, you've got to bring yourself to those meetings. So that are a couple other rules, just speak to someone like as if you're speaking to a friend and just try to break it down. A lot of people feel as if they've got to win a job coming back to, No, you've got to win a relationship.
So sales is possible for introverts as well.
100%.
Oh, great. Look, we'll leave that there. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Sales is a big challenge for almost every business, and doing it rightly, it can consume a lot of resources, but can also not at the same time as well. And I think that's the value of what you're doing, is to provide a framework and coaching to support both the business owners and those that have business development in their roles to share exactly that knowledge and to perform, really.
Absolutely. So, leadsbd.co.nz.
Very good. Thank you very much, Peter. Too good. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt.